You know, Dan Pink in his book Drive talks about three aspects of human motivation: mastery, autonomy, and purpose. You read the book and you're like, mastery, autonomy, and purpose. I love it. Like, we can motivate our workforce. And then reality is you've got a bunch of overworked, overcommitted people who want to be home with their families, not totally motivated. And so in this video, we're going to be unpacking how to empower employees to improve performance. Whew, say that 5 times fast. My name's Chad Littlefield. I get to work with some of the top organizations and universities on the planet to help them make connection and engagement really easy so that performance goes up, job satisfaction goes up, retention goes up. Today I'm going to share some research that points toward the top characteristic of the highest performing teams. Maybe more importantly, I'm going to share one technique to help you improve performance and empower employees to be a bit more motivated without you standing atop them with cheerleading pom-poms cheering them on, because that doesn't typically sustain motivation. Let's get into it. Google, a couple years back, launched this big research project called Project Aristotle in the quest to find what are the characteristics of the highest performing teams. And you can actually read this report. It's open. New York Times did a big article on it. Google, in their Rework website, publishes a whole bunch of really awesome free materials around this. So if you Google Rework, you'll find some stuff about that. But the number one characteristic that they found of high performing teams at Google was the degree of psychological safety in that team, which is Amy Edmondson, PhD, academic, Harvard PhD, academic terms for interpersonal trust. When I show up to work, can I be myself? Can I trust that others are going to build me up and not gossip about me behind my back? Or do I need to make sure I'm wearing a mask at all times when I show up to work? So there are two ways to kind of build that psychological safety, two pathways. One is external. Leadership perspective says it's safe to say anything you want here, right? You can speak your mind. I don't only need to hear good feedback. I'd love constructive feedback, critical feedback as well, right? So you can have that external psychological message of psychological safety going to a person or an employee. Or you can do something or facilitate something so that psychological safety builds intrinsically within a person so that they actually see that it is and they experience that it's safe to be psychologically safe rather than being told that they can be. Because I've been in lots of organizations who say that they want to hear anything, that they welcome employees' voices, but evidence would show that if you speak your mind too much, or in this particular aspect, or about this particular person, that politics rear their head, or some bureaucracy shows up, or there's this fear of getting fired or losing job, etc. So there are all sorts of reasons why people may not feel psychologically or emotionally safe in a context. But if you want to empower employees to improve performance and be a top performing team, you've got to create experiences ongoing that allow them to test the bounds of that psychological safety. The number one lowest hanging fruit way is to create connection before content. Now, if you've been subscribed to the channel, which kind of blows my mind, like 85% of people who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. But if you were, you'd seen some deep dive breakdowns of connection before content. I'm not going to do a deep dive breakdown. I'm going to hone in on one very specific aspect of connection before content. And that is, of the 3 ingredients of connection before content, you want people to connect to each other. You want to create the option or choice for authenticity and vulnerability. But in this context, if you want to empower employees to promote or to increase performance, you really want to hit the 3rd ingredient, which is to connect to the purpose of why they're there. And here's why. I connected with a top leader within Burt's Bees, the chapstick, and other stuff. And I love the metaphor that he used for purpose and talking about having a purpose as a company and really being deliberate about connecting everyone to that purpose, no matter where they were, what role they had in the company. And he said that purpose are additional employee that works 24/7 without a salary. Purpose is always there to motivate and empower people and remind people this is why, this is the higher level purpose here. Yes, you get a paycheck. Yes, you get to support your family. Work is called work for a reason. We don't always enjoy it. But we're also working toward this higher aim. And I don't know if you've been paying attention at all, but people don't really want to work for organizations that aren't tied to some level of higher purpose, that aren't making humanity better in some respect. or solving some really important problem. So connection before content comes in here in a really practical way, because sure, you can put posters of your purpose up, but that's external coming down. Whereas on a meeting to meeting basis or a gathering basis, if you're asking people questions that relate to parts of the purpose. So it doesn't mean that every time you start a meeting, you don't need to be as direct or as unsubtle as saying, how do you connect to the purpose of our company? How do you connect to the purpose of this institution? Right? I think the wiser, more clever way, and also more real and authentic way is to connect to indirect parts of the purpose. Right? So I was working with a group helping them make a coding boot camp more engaging. We could direct very obviously to coding, but instead we developed a question and an exercise, which is featured in a previous video, around connecting to logic. Because coding is a very logical thing. There are lots of if-then statements. If you do this, then this happens. And so connecting people to that if-then, that idea, it can connect people to the ethos and aim of the larger purpose, but is a little bit more situated in a specific context. So think about, what's the purpose of your specific meeting? How does that relate or not relate to the overarching purpose of the company? And how can you turn that intention of the meeting into a question to allow people to engage? Ask them for a story to share about. So for example, if you're planning an event and you want to make it unique and special and highlight some of the employee talents and strengths, what if your event planning meeting started off with the question, what's a unique talent or strength that you have? And my intention in starting with this question is I'd love to know about them to see if there's ways that we can actually weave this in. In fact, I was leading a big leadership summit for Comcast recently. And they had, at the beginning of the summit, it was a virtual summit, they had an employee play in his band to kick off the event. And one of the things afterward in my session as we were debriefing, we were talking about psychological safety, he came out and shared that he had worked for several other companies. He loves music, that's his passion. Can't make a living, or he has not been able to make a living off music. And so he works at Comcast. Comcast was the first organization that said, how can we invite who you are to elevate the company so that you can connect to your purpose, what you love, and weave it into our overarching aim, which is to create a really dynamite event that people want to be at, that they look forward to next year, et cetera, et cetera. We've got lots more resources on this idea of connection before content. You can access them all for free at wean.me/free, or the link in the description. But we also recently created a full deep dive online course in how to create connection before content with 9 different methods to do it. If that interests you, jump over to our website and check it out. I'm Chad Littlefield. Have an awesome day.